Welcome to the Recruitment Mentors podcast. My name is Hisham Azuz. Welcome back to another episode of the 15 Minutes with a Mentor series, where we're interviewing some of the mentors from inside the community in line with the launch of the Recruitment Mentors community. And we're asking the mentors 7 questions in 15 minutes. Delighted to be joined by Michael today. But for those that may not know you, if you could introduce yourself and then we'll get into it.
Thanks. Good to see you again. So my name is Michael Judkins. I am a senior manager at a marketing and digital and e-commerce recruitment company in London called Research, and I head up a couple of parts of the business. One focused on consumer marketing roles, and then the other is a specialist recruitment function responsible for recruiting some of the channel-specific roles across marketing and digital and e-commerce.
Amazing. First question. What was your biggest challenge in 2020? How did you overcome it? And what did you learn from it?
I got asked this recently. I've got 2. So I don't know if I'm going to be greedy and
that's fine.
2. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
So they link to be, they link to be fair. So I think the biggest fear when I went, when everything happened was, how am I going to manage my team remotely? I'm very much I've always felt like I'm very much a face-to-face, kind of manager. I get more from my team if I'm face-to-face, because I've typically worked 1 day a week at home anyway. So I always knew on those days I didn't really feel like I was getting as much from maybe the team as I would have liked if I'd been face-to-face. I guess I feared that, the change in communication style and the fact that, I wasn't just sat across the desk would have a negative impact on how we would on how we would work. And I think that for me was the number one kind of challenge. And I guess actually what it taught me was that there was an opportunity to talk openly with the team about how we communicate around certain areas. And actually what I do think since then is that we are better at communicating because we've had to adapt and work in an environment where it isn't just instantly over the desk. So what you get, I think, is more meaningful conversations when you do speak, and you're actually into the detail more because you have less opportunity to have those kind of smaller conversations, just here and there. So, on one hand, I do miss them because it's probably more instant and reactive to the situation or the problem that might be at hand. On the other hand, I feel like I get more detail when I do catch up, and therefore we can dive into things. And what that also then has done is given them the responsibility to be able to go away and deal with those problems themselves, as opposed to just relying on me because I'm sat opposite them, or I'm 2 meters away or 3 meters away from them, whatever it may be. So actually that, they've had to step up and upskill because they've had to deal with certain situations if they can't get hold of me because I'm on another Zoom call or something. So that was probably the biggest challenge, and that's, I guess, the outcome of what's happened. And then tying into that, I think, is then how to motivate the team. When I think we've seen a lot about this recently. Is the first lockdown was met with this kind of wave of enthusiasm, collectiveness, togetherness across the business and the team. The second one was pre-Christmas. I didn't think actually I think there was some hope, etc. And then this time round, it obviously, I don't know about what your conversations that you've had, but I feel like it's been harder at times for a lot of people. And actually motivating them when you yourself are going through some of those challenges can be quite a hard thing to do because we're all experiencing this. It's not everyone's impacted, and actually that. I know that's kind of the start of this year, but it's obviously part of last year is a massive challenge for me. It's like, right, you're maybe not feeling up for it today, but how do I get myself in the right mindset and frame of mind for my team meeting so that, actually, they feel this energy and positivity. And I think it's a balance between, actually explaining how you feel and that you're in that with them. And you're not some robot who isn't impacted by it. So showing some empathy and showing some kind of, that you are impacted by the situation, but also trying to have the right mindset to say, this is what I'm going to try and do about it, and this is what I'm going to do today, and setting clear goals and just communicating with them about how you're going to do it so that they feel that they can manage that too. But it is quite hard to motivate when you might be feeling the same as them.
Yeah, amazing. No, thank you so much for sharing that, Michael. That was great. So on that point then, I guess it'd be interesting to hear this from you. So What working from home tip could you share with other recruiters that has had a massive impact on your productivity?
Oh, well, I guess, yeah, I think for me, I guess in terms of like productivity for myself, because I haven't been in the office, I've actually been able to spend more time focusing on maybe my own activities, as opposed to always having to deal with maybe some of the team's issues or challenges.
Mm,
So one thing that I did say, and that links back to that point around the communication, is setting a dedicated time to talk. So whether that be in the morning, and then actually getting on with what I need to do, whether that's sourcing for a job or trying to win some business, or maybe I'm interviewing someone. Actually, that's then my dedicated task and my slot to do that, and therefore I don't have the other interferences that you might well get when in the office. So I guess my tip is plan ahead, plan your day, make sure you've got time for yourself, but also then time if you are a manager for a team. But make sure you're breaking your day down into times where you're trying to focus on that task, and people around you know that is what you're doing at that time, and they know when to speak to you or interact with you, so that you can then focus on that, because it's quite easy to get distracted in this job, and then you lose sight of what you were doing in the first place.
yeah.
So just trying to
No.
be organized, I think.
Yeah. Great. So on the topic of business, then, what has been the most effective way for you to win business in the last 12 months? Then.
I think it's been a combination of things. Leveraging long-standing relationships was the first point to call. I think we have, as a business, traditionally focused on that, and how we've won a lot of our work has been based on who previous relationships, and actually providing a good service and doing a good job for them, and then getting a recommendation and referral. And that's how we typically build a business in the first few years, because we were a bit of an unknown in our market. People weren't aware of us, so we had to come with some recommendations and testimonials and referrals of good business, because why were they going to give us a chance over our competitors who they've worked with or heard of for 10, 15, 20 years? I think we're now at that point where actually our brand does hold a bit of weight when we approach people, and people know who we are, so we don't have to we've got other options available. But because of last year, and because of what happened, and because people did stop recruiting, you had to kind of rely on those relationships, and make time for people, really build. I think it was like building trust with people, that you can help them in it however way they want, and that might be recruitment, it might be some advice, and then I think just providing that extra level of customer service, and just going above and beyond what you would typically do in the job, was why I feel like we were able to win some more work and pick up some more work towards the back end of the year, because we just really tried to deliver on everything we could and go above and beyond, because we knew it was tough, and we knew that other people out there might. So just providing that extra level of customer service, for us, saw a fair few results. And then the other things that we did were some of the kind of branding stuff, and trying to get the team and the guys to talk more and share more insight through LinkedIn and social channels, and then holding webinars and events, and actually adding some value in a completely different way. And we've done a little bit of that, but we've never really done it consistently. And we did 5 or 6 webinars towards the back end of last year. I hosted one, and got a panel together of people, some people who I'd worked with, others who I just kind of come into contact with, and it's really good, because they're now people that I could quite happily pick up the phone to and talk to, whereas 6 months ago, if I'd called them, it might have been a bit like, there might have been some like, why are you calling, whereas actually now they've hopefully gained some value from being on this webinar or this topic, and people have attended it, and it's just a nice little touch point for people. I think something different than I want to help you recruit for a job.
Yeah, no, I love that. Amazing. So what habit or hobby did you start in 2020 that you're going to continue in 2021?
Well, I didn't start, but yeah, we were talking about it earlier. I mean, I just got back into running. So yeah, if any of my team or business are listening to this later on, they'll laugh, because I'm always talking about Strava and times and stuff. But for me, that was a big one. And I think I was inspired by everyone else getting into doing physical outdoor activity as well, but in particular running, because it's always been me talking about it. I've always been a runner, but I think no one's ever really got the fascination with how, the benefits of it, not just, physically, but actually mentally. And that for me was a real way to clear my head in what has obviously been a really tough year. It was just some time to myself where I could clear my mind and have a think, listen to a podcast or some music and just, completely zone out. And yeah, I just, again, I think I fell in love with it again, like I had done, maybe previously, but yeah,
love that.
it's good to see so many people doing it as well.
So I want to know then, which do you think is better? The first coffee in the morning or the first pint post work on a Friday?
Oh, it's got to be the pint.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like coffee.
No, hold on. For me, I'm coffee all day long, but most people said pint so far.
Have they? Oh, that's good. I'm just I feel bad. I'm no Lash legend these days, but I would probably say the beer at the end of the week is. I think that's a hard one. It's a hard one to give up.
Yeah, nice, fair. Right, so next one is slightly different. It's a scenario, and I want to hear how you'd approach it. So, a particular business who's been sort of a target client of yours for over a year, long period of time. And during that time, there's been several touch points from them engaging with some of your content. Maybe one of them might have attended one of your webinars. You might have sent them some emails. And through your candidate network, you managed to get one of the hiring managers' contact details at this company. So you call that person, they pick up, they answer, they say, hello, who is this? And I just want to hear how you would approach that conversation and that first interaction.
Fair enough. I think it can depend on the situation, but I guess for me personally, it would be to try and build some form of credibility or establish some form of relationship early on. So whether that's talk about the people that we know, together or mutually connected to, or whether that's talk about something that we might have in common or some of the touch points we've had. And just approach it, very much, with how I can help them or what their situation is. They might be looking for a job, for example, and if they are, I would certainly spend the first part of that call focusing on them and their search, and not even talk about necessarily anything to do with me trying to recruit for them. But along the way, I'd probably try and give some relevant examples about work where we've previously helped similar clients, or actually, such and such, I help them, worth asking them. And then as part of my questioning around their situation, perhaps if they are looking, you get into team and understanding what they've done to get to that point. You can then, just ask an honest question, an open question about, how they, typically would go about recruitment, and, start that. I think sometimes you can overthink those questions, but actually just asking that question is the hardest thing for people to do. And not enough people do it. Try and skirt around the question, try and think cleverly about how I can, win this piece of work. By asking it, as long as you built up some form of credibility, and hopefully by being engaging and knowledgeable about your industry or sector, by asking that question, you shouldn't get a negative response. I often find if you get a negative response or a closed or really, quite like, why have you asked that? That's not right, or that's not what this call is about. Then that's typically because we haven't done enough at the start to build up that credibility. We just haven't done enough to make sure they know why. But hopefully, if you've done that bit right, that question, you might not necessarily get the response you want, but you probably get an answer that you can then work with again. And then I guess it's about, in your mind, working out when that next touch point is and when that next conversation is. I would never expect to go into that call picking up a job. I would expect to go into that call knowing that I'm going to do my best to give them a good impression of me, so that if I pick up the phone again and again and again, hopefully over time I'll win that work. And that's nice. If I either go into it like that, rather than I'm going to go into this winning a job, then I'm not then defeated if I get off that call and I don't pick up that job in that first call. Great. Whereas I think it's easy to be like, right, I'm going to pick up the job, and great, that's obviously what you want, but it doesn't always work like that. It might take a little bit longer. You've got to be prepared for that, I think.
No, brilliant. Final question. So just wanting to imagine that sort of you're speaking to a recruiter who has, you were just sharing with me before this with your team and stuff. So you're speaking to a recruiter that has set goals for 2021. They've written them down. they're feeling motivated, they're feeling pumped, they're going to have a better year than they did in 2020. What would your advice be to that person that you think would help them have the best possible chance of achieving the goals that they've set themselves?
Yeah, I kind of liken this to maybe running, because when I set my goals, I'm like, right, what do I want to be at the end of the year, and actually how am I going to get there? So I typically break them down. You might have a goal for the whole of the year, but that's a long way. It's 12 months in this job is a long time. So break it down. So make sure you have some smaller goals, some short-term objectives, and some medium and some long-term objectives, so that you can celebrate stuff along the way. The other thing is, then I think if you've got the smaller, medium, and objectives, actually they're stepping stones towards the long-term objective and the long-term goal. So you're focusing on stuff that will help you get to that long-term goal, and it just kind of realigns you and focuses you. Like, where do I need to be in at the end of Q1? Where do I need to be at the end of half year? And then at least you're then on track, or you can see if you're on track, to get to that end goal. So I'd certainly break it down. The other thing I would then say is, like, expect things to change and happen along the way. And by breaking it down, I guess that's less of a, you can realign, and maybe you might need to kind of, change that goal slightly because something's happened. Like last year, something happened. We had to realign what we were doing. Actually be okay with that and expect things to change, and accept those changes in a positive way, that they're like, right, I can do something about that, and change your mindset. And then, just, I guess, trust that trust the process to get you there, and believe in it, and follow that.
Love that. Michael, that was 15 minutes with a mentor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, mate. Very good to see you again.